So thank you all for attending the panel. And so today we have Maya, Dave, and Slava who will be sharing their experiences for the transition from academia to industry. And can you all start briefly with introducing yourself and telling a little bit about your company and your role?
Hello everyone, my name is Maya. So my PhD experience, I went to University of Saskatchewan for PhD in computer science to build, my lab was called Intelligent Educational Systems. So we kind of combined artificial intelligence with new educational technologies and build systems where students can use them. And currently I'm working as a software engineer, Java developer at Elastic for the product called Elasticsearch.
My name's David. Hi. My background is in mathematics and physics. That was my undergrad. I came to Canada to do my graduate studies. I actually went to materials engineering, finished my PhD at McMaster there, and went to the University of Cambridge afterwards. Discovered machine learning. Also discovered I wanted to get paid properly and get married, so I came back and I'm working as a data scientist for a company called Dye here in Kitchen.
Hi everyone, my name is Slava. Thanks everyone for coming. So my background is in chemistry. So I got a degree in chemistry from Belarus State University in Belarus. Then I came to Canada for my PhD. And I did a PhD in computational chemistry and scientific computing. And after I completed my PhD, I joined an insurance company. It's called Valorous Research, and I worked there as a research scientist, doing some risk modeling and data science.
Cool. And why did you make the transition to industry? Yeah, Dave already started a little bit. Do you want to add something extra to that, or?
I think that was mostly it. You know, I wanted to settle down and have security, and yeah.
Okay, cool. Slava?
Well, yeah, it's just kind of like a very painful sort of topic for everyone who's in academia. So yeah, that's true. That's very.
Okay.
That sort of contributed to my decision as well. That wasn't the main factor, but it definitely had an impact on my decision.
I want to compliment that these days, if you look at academia, most people are going back to industry and doing it as an honor because there are lots of more challenging problems in industry. So don't get disappointed.
Yeah, that's actually very much true because this, especially the people who get this award, Turing Award, Canadians, they are all professors, but they were actually working for Facebook and for Google.
Yeah. Cool. Do you want to add also something to the question?
Very similar to what
Okay.
David and Slava said.
Okay. Cool. And so, are there actually also things that you miss about academia when you're now in industry, or is there not really anything? Maya, you can start?
I very much miss interactions with fellow students or with my supervisor, on more interactions on a higher level, like we had a lot of philosophical discussions, and also different types of activities like teaching, teaching assistantship, doing research, so that's what I missed. I very much enjoyed my grad school.
Yeah, for me it was teaching on this and nearly complete freedom that I experienced in research. I missed that a little bit, but at the same time, well maybe that's the next question, but at the same time I do enjoy the fast pace of industry. There's still a lot more communication actually, I find, than in academia. And the people I work with, they're more diverse, different range of backgrounds, and yeah, I find that compelling.
I miss speaking at research conferences. It was a very good experience where I met a lot of people who were really enthusiastic about what they're doing, and they were doing it because they were truly interested.
Okay, cool. And so let's start off the next question with you. What advice can you give to someone who just landed a job in industry and is about to start? That's for you.
Okay. So my advice would be to try and understand the business as soon as possible. So after you join your company, your position, you're going to realize that people using acronyms, you have no idea what they mean. So pretty much like on your first day, you're going to be surprised. So ask as many questions as possible. Try to understand the business, the company, its structure as soon as possible. And the only way to do it is to ask questions and don't be shy about it. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Add something
For
there?
me, I had to learn how to write good quality code really quickly. That was a huge weakness that I had. I was self-taught. I would just code, on my own, and then joining a company with engineers, software developers, product managers. You really had to. I had to refine my coding skills, number one, and learn all the jargon of the company so that you can participate.
For me, just allocate some time for self-learning because there are so many issues at work to deal with. Like there are a lot of emails, some mundane issues, but it's good to allocate every day, sometimes just for yourself to learn something, for self-development. That's what I found helpful.
May I add a few sentences to my answers?
Yeah.
So, as part of my job, I developed tools for reinsurance analysts. So I talked to my manager and asked him if I can work as an insurance analyst for 3 months. That's what I did, and it helped me a lot because I actually understood what problems they face every day, and it helped me to come up with solutions that they use. It was very helpful.
Cool. And what are then some of the things that you really like about working in industry?
I touched on it a little bit, but I actually do enjoy the problems that we face. There's more immediate reward, actually, I found in academia. There's a real problem needs to be addressed now, and your task is to go and do it. So I like that challenge. And just the diversity of people that you work with. I mentioned it. Perhaps it was just my experience in academia, but you tend to, as the further you go along, the more narrow your expertise and perhaps your colleagues become, in a sense, at least in terms of their kind of background knowledge. So I like working with a very diverse team of individuals.
Go next. Maya? Oh, sorry, no worries. So what do you like the most about working in industry?
In the industry, okay. I like teamwork very much because my experience while doing PhD was you're working on yourself on this isolated project and you're basically alone in this journey. While with my team we can discuss a lot of issues, they can help a lot. Even sometimes during presentation when I need to present our new solutions in front of a big group of people, my manager will come, he will handle all the difficult questions. So this was a very good feeling for being part of it.
Okay.
I didn't want to repeat
Okay.
the answers, so I just want to add one more thing. I enjoy presenting technical stuff to people who don't understand technical details behind it. And it's very hard, and if you succeed, you feel really satisfied.
Nice. So now we just had it over the fun aspects of the job, and everybody indeed always wants to do the challenging tasks, but sometimes there are also more boring aspects of the job. Is the balance much different in industry versus academia? Where do you have more boring tasks actually in a job?
Yeah, I think there's boring aspects of every job. There's a certain amount of routine to every job. I don't know if it's more so for the data science position I'm in, but the data science, you do a lot of data cleaning and just, you're looking at the raw data. It's very important. So that can be, that can be boring in a sense. But at the same time, I'm always, asking questions as I'm doing so, and you're kind of critically analysing the problem while you're doing so. So in that sense, I find that I'm still intellectually stimulated.
Okay. Do you want to add something to that?
I think it depends on your position. It can be boring in academia, it can be boring in the industry. It's just real hard to generalize it. It depends on your project, on your team, on your company.
Do you think, Maya?
I'm very grateful that at my company, we can have very interesting issues to work, innovative, and we can suggest them ourselves, new features that we would like to see, and we are given this freedom. But of course, there are always mundane tasks. So we have to help customers, we have to help our support team, watch the build failures and fix them, answer emails, tag issues in GitHub. So but this is just a part of the work, and we just consider it.
Nice. So, slightly question I think a lot of people in the audience might have is how did you actually find your first job in industry, and what tips would you provide for people who want to make the transition from academia to industry, find the first job? Maya, want to start?
I started when I still was doing my PhD degree, was starting to look for a job. And it was actually quite a long experience, almost took me a year to find something, because I was first searching the jobs in particular that related to educational systems. I was applying for different startups, and I didn't get, we're not getting any offers. But then I decided I'll just widen my focus and just for any interesting positions will apply for them. But I ended up to be part of the internship at IBM. It's called IBM Extreme Blue Internship. It's actually a very interesting project. And then became hired by IBM, and after that started my work then.
For me, it took about 6 months to find my first data science position. So I was doing my postdoc and looking simultaneously. I was really surprised that how many applications needed to be made. People, I thought, maybe I'd apply at 5 or 10, and that would be enough, but it wasn't. I think I applied to about 50 positions, and I got responses from maybe 3 or 4, something like that. So very low hit rate. So I had to optimize my application process very quickly. Yeah.
Me, so a friend of mine suggested that I should apply before I graduate. This was a very good suggestion. So I started applying 8 months before my graduation. And interestingly enough, I applied online and I got a response, so I was invited to an interview. And it went well. So I got an offer before I graduated, and I actually started my job the day after I graduated, because the company had to wait for me to start. So this is a good, I suggest if you have time, just apply before you graduate.
And tips for, so I'm actually looking for, I'm on a recruiting team as well for Dialpad. We're looking for new hires, and it's amazing. We have to go through so many applications, and so we only really we make a decision within about 30 seconds whether to get rid of it, neglect the application or proceed. So you have to kind of make an impact that can be observed within 10 to 30 seconds. For data science, we look for coding experience. So if you have a GitHub profile, or if you've participated in Kaggle challenges, where you have some kind of evidence of coding, that's really important. And have a short, succinct CV that hits the relevant points. Get rid of all the irrelevant data.
Excuse me, could you just elaborate more on that? You need to see some impact on the resume.
Yeah, because So we have a recruiter that is full-time, and he filters first the resumes, and then he passes some to me and says, do these look good? And so in half an hour, we'll look through, probably about 30 resumes. So we need to see something that shows evidence of coding and for data science. Coding
for data science.
specifically, and evidence of critical thinking, and actually we need descriptions below each position you've held. So you've had an internship. It's not enough to just say internship at blah. You need a couple of bullet points below saying exactly what you did that's relevant to the role. So you built a machine learning model to predict this on this. That's what we're looking for. We need details, but succinct details just relevant to the position.
So while going through this process, how much importance do you give to the cover letter? So
not a whole lot actually. I thought when I was applying, I spent a lot of time writing cover letters, but really I think most of the evidence is in the resume. So we usually go to that first, and if later we need to decide between one or two maybe, and we might look at the cover letter, but actually most of the time it's just the resume.
I actually read the cover letter.
That's just my experience, yeah.
I look longer than 30 seconds through resumes. Yeah,
I guess outside of the resume, how much time did you spend on the platforms you recommended to contribute to, like Kaggle and Data? How much did you look up their profiles? Or did you?
Yeah. If there's a GitHub link, I'll look it up because I want to see if they've got just one commit or hundreds of commits. That makes a big difference. Yeah, so I definitely look at the GitHub and Kaggle as well. I don't dive deep into Kaggle, but I just want to see evidence of participation.
So So actually, I'm continuously looking for some industry position, and I'm really switching from academia to industry. So it was really some sort of new experience for me because initially my CV was literally just like a research scientist who is working in academia. With the passage of time, I understood that okay, these things should be written in some other way. Industry demands and the professor demands are different. Professor wants to see whatever you have done, literally, and industry wants to see what can you do. So another thing is that the bullet points that you are talking about. Also, I started writing my some type of web address, where GitHub or some kind of research articles if you have or something like that. I found that people are now calling me more when I'm writing some sort of references in it.
That's great.
And another thing that you are talking about, you have 30 seconds. So in my CV, it's very difficult to write in one page. So if I am removing some parts to make it one page, then I may have to skip some years that I can't show you that I was working at that time, what I was doing. So would that be okay for you?
I think you could go 2 pages if you want. 2 pages is fine, but definitely no more than 2 pages.
Yeah.
And just make sure everything that's in there is absolutely relevant.
So how it is important that I should write all the years, that continuity that shows that he was working continuously.
I think you should, in my opinion, it's okay if you skip your experience as long as it's not relevant. Ideally, every resume should be linked to a job that you apply to. It's hard to achieve this in practice, but this is how it should be. So I've seen this happening. People just skip some experiences and elaborate more what's relevant and just kind of skip what's not relevant. So again,
I could add a little bit to this. So one strategy that I had is that we have this master resume, which is 4 or 5 pages long, which details pretty much everything that you've done. So when a posting comes that you are interested in, you pick out sections or paragraphs or bullet points from that master document and basically make a resume that is targeted, very targeted to that application. So that automatically uses 4 or 5 page resume.
Yeah, but
and
after you use number of years that you work.
and what you do is you also indicate that this is only the relevant experience, and you can have a line saying relevant only showing relevant experience, practical experience. So this way you actually have indicated in the resume that only things which are pertinent to the position and that actually should be pertinent to the position is being displayed. The rest of the stuff is being left. And hopefully, if you get an entity called that can actually say, oh, these are other things that are done. But generally, if you have vast enough experience, that conversation can just center the work that is pertinent to the position, and they won't work in other areas. So that's one approach that can actually really good. Typically, if a position seems to be of interest to you, you may spend about an hour, even though you may have ready-made resume, but you probably will spend about an hour just to tailor fit your resume to that position. So that's a good if there's a position that don't really care about it, you can just send it over this. For a targeted position, you should spend on the time.
Yeah, it also just depends on the company. You also have companies that don't care that much if your resume is 2 pages or more. So it's always like kind of a game that you're playing. And sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you need to retry it. So okay, cool. Okay, yeah.
So what makes a good data scientist? Like somebody that you want to hire for a company, you fight with the other company to hire for them.
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, but we're looking for critical thinkers and people that ask lots of questions and people that are okay with not being right all the time, you know. So yeah, open-minded individuals, and yeah, that kind of personality trait. Yeah.
And another question is, okay, when you started the job as data scientist, there were probably not many programs in universities that offer data science. And we see a surge of programs, online courses, everything, right? So the new wave of applicants will come, right?
Yes.
So how would you manage to deal with this surge and pick the good one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. You guys have an idea?
Well, I would say there is, if you, what's your current background actually?
Mine?
Mine, yes.
I have about 5-6 years experience as a kernel database engineer, C++, and I have deep understanding of machine learning, and I'm looking for career. This is not a job pitch, but
Yeah, no. It's like you need, like you say, like you have like the database experience, have programming experience.
Yeah.
That's something that you already can help you stand out to someone who's just like recently graduated, because they indeed might know the more new theory, or they might know the most recent methods of machine learning. But the benefit for you is like you have indeed your industry experience, you know like what works for production code, what doesn't work. You have more business feelings, and that's something that you can actually add in, where you have like, those people they might know the most recent things, but they still need to learn how to work in a company, how to work with the business context, and also like if you indeed have the programming experience, you definitely also, for example, can look more like going into data engineering or productionizing of models, because that's always like where the biggest challenges live. Like you indeed can have something that works for like one situation, but how can you make it work for all the clients? So that's things that you can nicely add in your pitch.
Yeah, and I would say almost there's like 3 orthogonal components, you know, that can make up a good data scientist. Probably more, but the ones that come to mind are, well, yeah, you can have the machine learning background, which is all the rage these days, and that's what most people are looking for. So maybe that's one component. Another component is, I would argue, is the coding ability, which is a very critical component. But then the final one might be more the business smarts and personality smarts. And it's rare to get all 3 in one. You know, usually it's going to be a bias one way or the other. But to have just more than one can make you stand out.
And what also helps is just maybe sometimes being like active in a meeting or something, give a talk or something, also helps you stand out.
Just saying.
Yeah, but I have a question.
Yeah.
So what's the value of doing a PhD?
This is going to be the next question.
Put on a roll, you know. So. Yeah, no, for me, it's definitely critical thinking and communication. yeah, probably critical thinking and communication.
I think the product development could be the
Sorry?
like product development is also like you are starting right from scratch and you are building something rather than
How come communication? Okay, critical thinking, I can understand, I can see that communication.
Participating in conferences, writing papers, and teaching. Those were where I built up my experience in communication, which I think has helped. But actually, I realized it's still not enough.
Yes, because communication, like for when you speak to students or like international scientific conferences, is a little bit different than,
Yes.
for example, speaking to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's still some domain adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, the biggest value of a graduate degree, PhD and master's, more so PhD, is that it proves that you are capable of achieving, completing your project under very tough conditions. It's like a stress test, so to speak. I don't know. This was my experience. It may not be true for everyone, but this is my opinion.
Right?
Yeah, kind of very clinical slows at the end. And you can work independently, so you can kind of develop think, have all this project by yourself. So you should plan, execute the planning and execution. But I still probably wouldn't do PhD if I knew what I knew before.
Okay.
I also came to Canada as a foreigner, and I suggest me previously to do master's degree instead.
And okay.
I have a question for all of you. I'm not really sure about this and transitioning to industry, but I find that it may be a more natural step for someone who was doing a PhD in computer science or something more related with machine learning. But if you're in a different area, like industry, for example, it may be, if you're not using these tools before, it may be difficult to frame your resume to kind of highlight these skills that are required. So my question is basically, how do you optimize your application process and your resume for this? Try to convince that your skills are transferable.
So in my case, I did a PhD in computational chemistry, but involved a lot of coding of algorithms for simulations. So this was proof that I have some coding experience. So I also learned in my free time languages that I thought might help in my application, and I also did an internship in data science before my graduation. This helped. I think this was one of the most important components of my successful application. What do you guys think?
In my experience, it's okay for a data science role. You don't have to, we're not looking specifically for people with computer science backgrounds or software engineering backgrounds. I do favor graduate programs completions, and some evidence that you've completed have some courses, some online courses in machine learning or coding, or some kind of challenges, or even if you have, as I say, the GitHub page with code on it, then I know that process.
Thank you for all the insights you've all given so far. I'm a master's student here at the University of Waterloo. I'm kind of at a crossroads myself because I'm nearing the end of my 2 years of my master's, and as I look forward, I have either go PhD or go into industry. As the industry stands right now, what the kind of insights you guys see right now, do you guys recommend me to go for a PhD, or do I continue into industry? Because there's a lot that's possible on both sides. It's just a matter of opportunity and what do you recommend?
I'd say take whatever we say with caution. But the one thing I would say is I think the time frame for doing a PhD, spending a lot of time in a program, that opportunity diminishes as you get older. So if you really have your heart set on doing a PhD, you're probably better off doing it sooner rather than later. You're at a stage in your life where it's easier. So if your heart's set on that, then I would probably go with that. But along the way, make sure you're getting kind of, you're touching base with industry. Yeah, any kind of experiences you can have, maybe as an intern, or maybe you're just going to conferences in the area, and try and keep in touch with industry, and even if you can connect with software engineers or something like that to improve your coding along the way, then you've got all your options open.
So try to get an internship if you can. So in my case, the internship that I did, it wasn't related to my PhD status. I actually talked to my professor and explained why I may need this, so it was a bit unrelated. But we, came to an agreement, and so it helped me later. So, but just reflecting on your question, I think if you're in doubt, if you want to do a PhD, just think really hard about it. So I remember when I was thinking about this, I didn't have a lot of doubt at that point. Just think about this way: it's like when you're doing a PhD, you're sacrificing the most productive years of your life towards a goal. Just answer this question: if you're willing to do it, if you think it's worth it, then yeah, go for it. If not, just go to the industry.
It's not a binary decision. You can go to PhD and quit.
That might look bad on your resume, right?
Yeah, but if you quit for right reason, then it's not bad.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, like it all depends upon do you have any reason to do PhD? Like normally when people are doing PhD, they are just doing that this is part of your education. Actually, for me, PhD is more a part of your education. It's just giving you, when you have some idea and you want to work scientifically on it, then you want some scientific person for it, and you come under some supervision of some scientific person, professor. So you get attached to it. When you want to do your own business, you want some other person, like the startup places, you want to go there and you want to get some supervision there. So it's just like the same thing. You are doing a project and you want to do it along under some supervision. So it's better to get some experience of industry, then your mind will get like open. You can have some new ideas. You can pinch off these ideas. You can find some good professors for it. It's very important. If you have good professor, you will be going to move. If you don't have good professor, don't move. So it's very important.
How do you solve problems? Do you see a difference between, for example, learning a new ML algorithm or something while on the PhD or in industry? For example, do you learn the principles or you reproduce the research?
Yeah, so I work as a researcher. My dad was a research scientist. So I'm involved in research. I don't see a fundamental difference between like what you mentioned. It's the same thing, just solving a more fundamental problem or solving a more practically oriented problem. So in my opinion, it's not too much of a difference.
Yeah, do you want to go?
We take research papers and try to code them, try to implement solutions from them.
Yeah, and for me, I start with an existing solution and see if it works in that context. If it does and it's great, then that's probably what will be used. But oftentimes it doesn't work straight away out of the box, so that's when we fine tune it. So that requires a better understanding of the algorithm and how it works, so that you can fine tune it. And if you're lucky and you get a bit more time from your boss, you can experiment a little bit with your own ideas, but that's the exception rather than the rule.
You have a situation where you could not reproduce the research?
So is there occasions where I don't reproduce?
You cannot reproduce.
Probably a handful of occasions, but usually it's a bug in my code. So, so I can't blame anyone.
Nick?
Question, now that you're on the industry side, is, and more broadly than just people needing to keep their repertoires up and expanding in terms of new where do you see academia from an educational standpoint struggling to keep up with the needs of industry? And you know, the history certainly in engineering is actually industry leads and then academia is following, you know, whether it was semiconductors or aerospace or even automotive, let alone more contemporary things. And my suspicion is something similar is likely happening in data science, but it's too current for it to be well publicized. And I'm just curious as far as where there is likely an educational bandwidth deficit in sub-skill areas that are critical to activating the full value of data science work. Where do you feel like the educational side of academia has some catching up to do?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Well, I think it's funny. A lot of the cutting-edge research that I come across now actually comes from the big, private companies like Google and Facebook and those things. They have their own research sectors. Google has Google Brain, and they're producing a lot of the cutting-edge research. It's not coming from the university institutions, at least in my experience. So I don't know if that's a relatively recent shift. It may be. And then in terms of the universities, yeah, I can't make a good comment on that because I came through a completely different program. I wasn't trained in data science.
But they are partnering with academic researchers, and if you look at your Newton's field of academic research,
yes.
Research, which was 2 decades before it actually learning. So on the flip side, usually all of these major companies are partnering with academic research sectors. They're leveraging a lot of the research that is produced, but not the commercial viability of the suspect, and then they actually select and start the research and then say, no, this is commercially viable, let's take it and then commercialize it. So that actually, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but I just wanted to add that one point. Another point that academic institutions, especially in data science, machine learning, AI, and so on, are facing is that they are losing a lot of their talent pool, either it's professors, either it's PhD students, or postdocs, or so industry. So there is a dearth of individuals to do lots of cutting-edge research just because industry positions are not lucrative. So that is a struggle that academic institutions are facing too.
How prevalent are you seeing remote jobs in the industry? Are they fairly common or are they still relatively limited in size?
All my working life in Canada was remote jobs. At IBM, I used to work as a remote worker, but then they shut it down and they asked everyone to come to the office. And now I work at Elastic and all engineering team works remotely. So I think there are some positions where you can find remote work.
It's getting more common, I think. Yeah.
Just the time differences that people are paying sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you see any risk of data science going in the winter of research?
Well, there's a risk to everything. Possibly. I don't know, but I think the skills that are involved are universal. They can be applied. That's one of the things actually I like about data science too, is that it's very broad in nature. You know, it's a certain skill set that you can apply to a wide variety of problems. It's not limited to a specific domain. So I think it's adaptable.
My question is, can you guys share about what you do from day to day, so I have a better understanding about what a data scientist should do? Like how much time you spend on preparing the data, and how much time you spend on programming. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, let me go.
Probably hard to generalize. In my case, it's project specific. So activities that I spend time on is writing computer code, because I'm involved in development of computer code that is used by other people. Also, I spend time on data cleaning and preparing a clean data sets for development of predictive models. and then this is what we developing predictive models. And also, I always spend some time, communicating with my teammates and with senior management who have meetings. And depending on the day, it can take a lot of time.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, I think like the sexy part of data science. That's like 1 to 5% of your time. It's not a whole lot for me anyway. If you're building a new model or trying to do something exotic. So yeah, most of the time is you're pushing data around, cleaning, pushing, writing code. I'd say that's most of the time.
As a more effective developer now, what do you wish you knew as an academic in trying to do development for me to develop? Like techniques or kind of improvements that you wish you knew back then?
Yeah, for me, I was a really bad coder, so I wish I had started early. I wish I had done more Kaggle competitions. I think they're fantastic. So yeah, I would have done more of those if I could go back. And I would have learned GitHub a lot earlier. It takes a long time to learn. So yeah, and actually hackathons. I've volunteered at a few hackathons now, and it's really cool what they do there. So I would go back and do more hackathons.
Yeah. Last question.
As a data scientist, what are the technologies that will be incrementally doing? So can you the technology stack, as in what kind of languages we incrementally what do we need to build on? The important.
I use Python and R most of the time. In terms of technologies, just a common libraries for machine learning and data analysis for Python and R. I also sometimes write queries in SQL, and I also have models that are deployed in AWS, and that's pretty much what I work with day to day.
Well, I'm not a data scientist, so you probably better.
Our company, we're 300 employees, and all like 99% of the code is in Python. That seems to be the trend. So I think most, at least tech startups, are now using Python. So that's the main one, and for machine learning, TensorFlow, Keras, are the big ones.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you very much for participating in the panel, and thank you very much for all the good questions. And also, if you are interested to speak at one of the future meetups, you always can let me know. You can still hang around a few minutes here, and thank you all for coming out today.